everybody. The biggest splash in this week's sporting news, I think, was made by Satnam Singh. Ayaz, what do you think? First Indian to get drafted into the NBA at the age of 19.
Absolutely, fantastic achievement.
Yeah.
I think one must give credit to IMG Reliance, plus of course the NBA scouts who've been here. Obviously the family which supported him. So I think it's a breakthrough moment for basketball in India. To be playing, for somebody to be playing in the NBA, and not just of a person of Indian origin, but actually an Indian. We had Buller, Sim Buller earlier,
the Canadian.
But there's a difference there, and I think Satnam Singh could be the forerunner of many, hopefully many young basketballers going and playing in the NBA.
Yeah. So he is, as you said, from India. Like he went to the Ludhiana Basketball Academy.
Yes.
There he was spotted.
Yeah.
And then NBA, they run this amazing program, which is called Basketball Without Borders.
Yes.
So he was selected for that, sent to Singapore, and then finally he went to the IMG Academy. And
I think the story of how these guys get into an NBA is obviously very riveting. First of all, I can tell you that when you have a boy or a girl who ends up becoming so big, there's always the dread in parents, what's going to happen to them, and then they get into sports, and then you channelize the energy, and everybody, in fact, especially in India, I'm sure it's perhaps similar elsewhere, there's so much attention paid on putting these guys through their paces. There's a lot of sacrifice which goes in. I think one must acknowledge, I mean, these are human interest stories as we call them in the media. But I think Satnam Singh, I hope that he gets a lot more court time on the court, proves his credentials, and because the more he's exposed to the world, and especially youngsters back in India, that's where the sport will grow.
Yeah, so it's interesting because he is not part of any of the college program, how the US
That's
runs.
usually the,
so he's a 52nd pick, which is, I mean, it's great.
Yeah.
But he still has a long way to go. He's just 19. He'll probably peak by 22, 23.
So just to draw a cricket analogy, when young Indian players used to go and play and be signed up by a county in England, they would play for the county second 11, and then you graduate to the first 11. Obviously now standards have fallen so badly that you don't need to join the second 11, you go and play for the first 11, but the NBA is a different ball game.
Yeah. So as I was just saying, so the NBA is running this brilliant grassroots program in India now.
Yes.
So they are targeting schools across all cities, and this year they've completed some 1,000 schools.
Yes.
And so they are trying to encourage the sport in this country, and they really feel it's picking up.
Yeah, there's a good reason for it, because India has got enough people, and also India is, I think, rich for the picking, where the economic support for sport is going to increase over the years, more than in Europe or even in the US. So obviously as an expansion, the NBA has seen it right, but they have to invest the time and the money over the next 10 years to reap the rewards later.
I had an opportunity to talk to Yannick Colaco. He's the managing director of NBA in India, and he has some really good things to speak about the future of basketball in India.
Oh, absolutely. Look, in my opinion, and I've been saying this everywhere, that apart from cricket, the two sports which have the maximum potential for growth in India are football and basketball. And why basketball? Because A, it's very gender friendly. Even women's basketball is exciting to watch. B, it's so cheap when you start out. You just need a hoop in your building society or wherever. You don't even need, you just need a ball and a hoop. You don't need more than that. Even in cricket or hockey or any of these sports, you need paraphernalia. For football, you need a field. Here, you don't need anything to get to understanding the game.
So just let's take a look at what he has to say and what he thinks is the future for basketball in India.
All our grassroots program participation is just going up, 3, 4, 5 times every year. If you look at just our consumer of our product itself, our television ratings are, going up by over 100% every year. Our merchandise sales are doubling and tripling every year. Our digital, our social media presence and our likes are going up by over 400% a year. So, everything in terms of adoption, in terms of fans we're seeing is extremely positive. And we're really excited for two things that the response we've had. One is that the response we've had has been primarily among youth. And second, it's been largely with boys and girls, male and female.
He's voicing what you're saying too, that it's a very gender-friendly sport.
Great men think alike. though fools seldom differ, but I think I think Yannick has got his sights right. Yeah. I think the fundamental understanding is that India has got latent talent. It has to be nurtured and then exploited. Yeah. But that period might take 5, 7, 10 years, which is an investment not just in terms of money, but in terms of time and passion and commitment. I think the NBA is willing to do.
Yeah. Okay, so from basketball to our favorite sport, cricket.
Yes.
We've recovered little ground. I mean, we've saved face.
We've saved face, yeah.
Won the consolation match.
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, India was never a bad team. I think they played badly. With due credit to Bangladesh, who played superbly, and I think that's great for the sport. Not so great for India or India's prestige. But I think when they came into their own, actually they won the third match quite easily. So, I wouldn't be too disillusioned with the performance of the Indian team. I have always thought that the Indian team which went there, all the players, they were, I think, fatigued, jaded mentally as well as physically. Not as an excuse, but after the World Cup, before that the Australia series, the Tri series, right from the England series, they had been non-stop on the road, and then the IPL. Now, there's lots of arguments that, they can play in the IPL and it's for money, and when you play for the country, you're not playing for pride and prestige. I think that's a very puerile argument, because the IPL is also part of domestic cricket in India. Yeah. It's not that you're playing for somebody else, you're playing domestic cricket in India. And after that, it's very difficult to recharge yourself within 5-6 days. So what has happened as a consequence? Now the Zimbabwe team has been announced, the team to Zimbabwe.
Ajinkya Rahane, he's leading.
Well, he didn't play in the last 2 matches in Bangladesh. Now he's captaining, which is good for him. But no Virat Kohli, no Mahendra Singh Dhoni, no Rohit Sharma, no Umesh Yadav, no R. Ashwin. So a host of young other players, not so young also. Harbhajan Singh is back. Robin Uthappa is back. I think they have now realized perhaps that you need to send the bench strength there. And I think I quite liked what Sandeep Patil says. It's not just this tour that we want to win. Obviously they want to win, but they also have their sights set on the T20 World Cup. So there are a couple of T20 matches to be played in Zimbabwe. They're going to build up a team for the T20 World Cup, which is how you should go about it.
Yeah. Great. So let's see how that pans out. And so much happening in football. We've finally reached the semi-final stage of both the tournaments that we've been tracking, Copa America and the Women's World Cup. Yeah. Copa America, surprisingly, Brazil crashed out. Lost on penalties.
Yes. What was Neymar doing when they were crashing out?
Well, they kept panning to his face that they did that. But
I haven't followed. Did he tweet anything? Did he say anything?
No, he's not. He's I think he's been told to keep silent.
Chill.
Yeah, on this whole issue, and let's just cool it off, kinds. Yeah. So Argentina is playing Peru in the semi-finals, and Chile, the hosts. I'm sorry, Argentina is playing Paraguay, and Chile is taking on Peru.
Yes.
And surprisingly, Chile has never won this tournament. And they're the hosts, so they're really hoping. They've been very impressive. They scored the maximum number of goals, so maybe it's their turn finally. Maybe the hosts can live.
I mean, the competition amongst all these Latin American countries is very intense, as always happens when
we don't get Argentina versus Brazil now. That's what everybody was hoping for, but
I mean, but even so, because all of them are so good at football, and the legacy in all countries is very strong. Maybe strongest in Brazil and Argentina, but the other countries have also been very, very obsessed or obsessive about football. So I think that Chile is looking for to kind of turn the tables on everybody else and come out on top.
I'm completely rooting for Chile. I think they deserve one victory. They have to sneak it out.
You've given up on Brazil.
Brazil out. Argentina, I think Messi is a little fatigued. I think he's also had a really long season, so
maybe he and Kohli and Dhoni should be on the phone together and ask how does it mean? What does it mean to play when you're fatigued?
But my women's women's World Cup contenders, Germany is still doing really well. Yeah. They defeated France, and as I said, I think the team that won from that will go on to win. But they've lost so many players, so they play USA.
Yeah.
And Japan versus England. England first time semi-finals in the Women's World Cup.
Absolutely, it's fantastic. Yeah. Like we've seen in tennis.
Yeah.
Know which Japanese is making waves in tennis?
Yeah. Nishikori.
Nishikori, yes.
Of course.
He could be one of the guys to win a Grand Slam from Japan. So that'll be great.
Yeah.
If in football, in women's football, it's a very conservative society, even in Japan. So if the women's team makes waves in football, it's a big thing. So I think that, hey, I mean, Asia coming out well is a great sign.
And I mean, they won last time, so they're the defending champions. So
but one thing I want, Nikhila, is maybe at some later stage, you have to get us the lowdown on what makes the Germans such great football, men and women's.
But they lost to the under 21 right now.
No, that's okay. What do they eat? How do they train? You know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I really mean it. I think there'll be an education for.
It'll be an interesting conversation.
It'll be an interesting
Someday
conversation.
we shall definitely do that.
Yeah.
But now we have Wimbledon that's just started today. Like, I think
sleepless nights for Nikhila.
My favorite 2 weeks of the year.
Yeah.
Hands down. So let's just look back like we do. Let's go down memory lane.
Yeah.
And Arthur Ashe, he won Wimbledon for the first time 40 years ago. It's
the only time.
Yeah. And he was the first black man to win Wimbledon.
Yes.
I mean, right now, it's when we say it like that, I think people don't really realize how momentous it was when it happened.
Absolutely. And I was
1975.
much before you were born, of course, but I was around as a young man growing up. And Arthur Ashe's victory was sensational to the in the perspective that nobody expected him to win. I mean, he was a major player in the US. He and Clark Grebner was the other, black American who was also there, but he was more of a doubles player.
Yeah.
Arthur Ashe was also a very fine singles player, but nobody expected him to beat Jimmy Connors in 1975.
Yeah, considering he never beaten him before.
He'd never beaten him before, and the manner in which Jimmy Connors had won the previous year in 1974. And Jimmy Connors was this,
And he hadn't dropped a single set that year
Not dropped a single set, typical brash, young American, tennis pro who said he'll, send him scurrying all over the court and packing him back to New York or wherever Arthur Ashe came from. And then it just showed what experience and guile and steady nerves and a great temperament could achieve. I mean, obviously Connors was the more talented player as it emerged over the next decade and a half.
That's true.
More talented, more energetic in that sense. But it's like a raging bull, how do you tame a raging bull?
Yeah.
That's what Arthur Ashe showed us.
did. Okay, so that was the past, and let's just look ahead. Who's your favorite for Wimbledon to win?
I wish it's Roger Federer.
Yeah.
Like millions of people do.
You think it's last chance? Last shot?
Last year we said
it was
more or less the same thing, so close. So he's still, unlike say Nadal, who's now what, ranked 10th or 9th?
Yeah, he's seeded 10th
He's seeded 10th.
And he's on the same half as Murray, Federer,
so
Nadal.
So Federer is still in the top 5.
Yeah.
And he's had a victory on grass court just before the main tournament begins. So I won't discount him, but it's going to be tough for him.
Yeah.
Obviously, the first choice, going by run-in form, would be Djokovic.
Yeah, I think Murray.
But this is Murray's home ground, so to speak, though he's advocated independence for Scotland.
Yeah.
But I think the English supporters will forgive him for that. And then, of course, keep an eye out for Nishikori.
Nishikori, definitely. And women's, who would you pick?
I can't look beyond Serena, really. Yeah.
21st Grand Slam, I think she's going to get there.
Yeah, and maybe for the next 20 years, who's there to compete with her?
Well, there are a couple of. Kvitova won last year, there's Halep, there's Sharapova, even though there are a couple of other.
Yeah, I always feel if Serena wants to win, she wins.
Yeah,
it's true. It's that kind of a thing.
That's true. Okay, so we'll keep an eye on Wimbledon, and next Monday we'll discuss what happens in this week. That's all the time we have for today. See you next week. Thank you.